We're live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those of you still on the fence figuring things out, welcome back to another episode of Derailed, courtesy of Arcaicskidz. I'm, of course, your host, Arcaicskidz, and we have Unladylike Libertarian here.
What's Hello!
Up? How you doing?
Pretty good.
Right on. Well, we'll just jump right in. So why don't you tell people who you are, what you're about, and how you got the views you got.
All right, I'm the Unladylike Libertarian, aka Heather. I came from a military background. I was born in West Germany in 1987. How I came to libertarianism is a combination of my mom's war, my parents, and Ron Paul in 2012. He was kind of the, I think I already suspected I was already a libertarian, but it wasn't until 2012 that was kind of confirmed.
Right.
Especially in this 2012 debates.
Ron Paul was a badass. Well, is a badass. Oh, yeah. He brought a lot of people to the Libertarian Party. I can successfully say I'm not one of those people. I was a Libertarian before Ron Paul ran in 2008. So, you know.
I don't think I was so much in 2008 because I was 21 years old in 2008 and I voted for John McCain.
Oh, gross.
Now, that was more of me mimicking my mother because she's kind of a conservative. She was also in the army.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense, but no. My dad voted for John McCain, and he's like, "What do you mean you didn't vote for John McCain?" And I'm like, "I don't want to vote for a war criminal." And he's like, "What are you talking about? He's a prisoner of war." I'm like, "Yeah, I get that." Then he came home and became a war criminal.
I bought the POW shenanigans.
We used to call him Tiger Box when he was running because that's what he got kept in Vietnam, was in a Tiger Box. So call him Tiger Box. I thought it was funny. Right on. So we are 101 days into Old and Chief, the reign of Biden.
Yeah, boy.
What do you think?
It's been crazy. That's all I gotta say. It's just been crazy. Considering I'm currently living in Arizona, I've seen gas prices jump from I think maybe $2.50, like $2.10s, to up to $3. $3.
I keep seeing all these memes that are like these people going, "Oh, you know what? We got to get rid of Trump. And then there'll be another tweet from them, and it'll be like, "I want to vote again." Just fuel prices.
Yeah, like speaking of Trump, my husband voted for him.
I voted for Trump this time.
Trump. He voted for Trump.
Yeah.
I did not.
Well, I couldn't vote for Joe Jorgensen, and I was like, Old and Chief is just not. He's nutty, like just complete nut job. And I don't know. I thought Trump was hilarious. I mean, he was an idiot and he's a war criminal, but he was hilarious. So, Biden's not funny.
Sure.
Well, Biden's not funny on purpose. Let's put it that way.
Kind of like Gerald Ford.
Yeah.
In the 70s. If he were president today, he would be memeable.
That's true. That's very true. Like Cotton Mall is going to be very memeable after Biden, passes the mantle. So that there's going to be good memes there. But so we were talking just before about the whole border thing. You live in a border state.
Yeah.
So you've got you get to see that nightmare. I'm assuming on your news, probably nightly.
I don't watch news.
Well, in your timelines and whatever, people down there in Arizona share and stuff, I would assume. Yeah. But this is a humanitarian disaster, to say the absolute least. Rather, whatever your stance on borders is, this is a disaster. What is?
Without a doubt.
Is there anything that your governor's attempting to do to try to?
I haven't heard anything about it, but that's just.
Well, your governor is kind of a pussy, so there's that.
Yeah. I mean, he did to give him a little bit of kudos, he did lift up the mask mandates about a month ago, almost. Yeah, it was about a month ago.
I find it incredibly sad that we have to say that in America. Like, well, they didn't make us wear masks anymore, so that's a good thing. It's like, Jesus Christ, what have we become?
That's the only kudos I'm going to give him credit for.
Yeah. When I remember when Abbott, the governor of Texas, like released all of their nonsense, their mask mandate, social distancing, all that shit, and said, all right, you guys just, we're open, go for it or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
All these people were celebrating him, and I'm like, you all realize that he never should have done that in the first place, right? Like, you're cheering on a guy for giving your freedom back that he stole from you. Like, I don't understand. No, like our governor here in New Mexico, she's a little 4-foot nightmare of a dictator.
I've heard.
Oh my God, she is terrible. It's like all the worst things that like New York did, California did, New Jersey did, they all got the idea from her. Because this was the nonsense she started right off the get-go. You know what I mean? And I mean, she's very proud of herself. She's like, we led the way. All these other states followed. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about
I wouldn't be proud of that. But, I live in an extremely Republican county, and they're all a bunch of pussies too. Because the sheriff's like, yeah, we're not going to enforce this stuff, but, state police still will. Everyone else will. And he's like, well, what do you want me to do? I'll arrest them. Let's do that. So
that's just like the governor of Georgia, where I lived before I moved down here to Arizona. He's also a tool. He's a tool. The governor of Tennessee, my home state, he's also a tool. He's letting Mayor Cooper, the mayor of Nashville, run the show. They still haven't really lifted their mask mandates, which is bullshit.
Yeah. I liked how Old and Chief came out and said, oh, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask outside if you're not around other people. I'm like, you don't have to wear a mask outside anyway.
I don't. I mean,
no, it's ridiculous.
But I have it on, but that's when I'm coming out of the grocery store. But most of the time, it's like, I don't typically wear one outside. It's stupid.
Yeah, I love when I see people and they're like jogging with a mask on. I'm like, there's something wrong with you. Like, but so Biden gave his address to Congress. Ted Cruz fell asleep. That was pretty funny.
So I've heard.
But he mentioned
it got a lot of dislikes on YouTube.
Yeah, but I mean, according to ABC polling, 85% of the Americans thought it was a great speech.
There was a leftist that probably are
like, yeah. More than likely. They're just like, oh, yeah, we loved it. You're all idiots.
It's Obama 2.0.
No, it's worse. Obama wasn't this bad. Like, for all of the screaming and everything from the Republicans, it's like, other than the healthcare crap, Obama, he wasn't as bad as Biden. Like,
I mean, there was a meme that was going around that says Bush Light and it has Biden's picture on it.
That's true. That's funny. One of the things that he said, which really cracked me up, because Biden, because he doesn't know who he is or where he's at, he tends to say the quiet part out loud.
Like most of them are doing these days.
But he said, "We the people," and then he points out to Congress and he goes, that means us, we the government. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like there's like I said, there's a lot of that going around lately. Like this CNN clip where there was this Asian doctor that says, what about the carrot on the stick?
Yeah.
To paraphrase it.
Yeah, we're gonna, these people are just gonna go like do these freedoms on their own if we don't, do something. Okay, tough. Get over it. He mentioned a lot of spending. He wants to spend like $6 trillion or some stupid shit and all this stuff. Send out more checks again, whatever. I don't know. But overall, I'm like, okay, I kind of dig it now. I'm kind of digging it. I like it. And all these people get confused when I do that. And I'm like, well, he's going to spin us into oblivion. So rapid inflation is going to collapse the entire economy. The government won't be able to spend their way out of it or tax their way out of it. They're going to try to take all your guns away. People are going to get super pissed, and maybe we'll get our peaceful divorce. I'm a big fan. I'm like, the sooner the better, you know. I don't want a violent divorce, but, you know, I'm all about balkanization. I think it's about time. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm going to have to move out of this state because I want to stay blue. Well, maybe I can get Arizona and Texas to just take it by force. Just like.
I mean, there are some Arizonians that are fighting back.
Yeah. I've got family that lives in Arizona, so you know they. I don't know. Like both my aunts live down there, and they went and got their vaccines and stuff. You know, my aunt's like, "You're gonna be mad at me," and I'm like, "Why?" And she goes, "I got a Fauci ouchie." That's not what she called it, but that's what I call it. And I was like, "Why would I be mad? I don't care." And she's like, "Well, I thought you were against those," and I'm like, "No, I'm against them being forced on people. I mean, if you want to take one, take one. I don't give a crap. You know what I mean?"
Yeah, that's what I told my husband. It's like, he's going to have to get his jab eventually. And because he's in the Army, he's an Army officer. And he asked me, like, you can get it if you're interested. I'm like, no. I have my own reasons.
Yeah.
Because I got the flu shot in 2017. So that's made me a little more susceptible to getting sick.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Army, so far, they're not forcing it, but they're already trying to, you know, there's people in Congress that are trying to force it. Both, you know, the uniparty. I mean, it's coming from both sides or whatever. But
not surprised there.
No. Well, they're all one party. They like to argue and say, "Oh, we're different." No, you're not. You're not different.
I think there's a saying that goes along the lines that the right wing and the left wing are all on the same bird.
Yeah. Yeah. Two wings on the same bird. Like, it doesn't make a difference. That's why, I don't know. I'm thinking that earlier, you know, like the last few years, I'm like, well, if libertarians could ever get their messaging together, which I'm actually hopeful. I'm hopeful that someone like Angela McArdle will get LP chair and we'll switch out leadership up top, and then that'll maybe help. You know, I don't agree with Angela McArdle on everything, but her messaging over this COVID stuff has been on point. As far as
I almost say the same thing about Justin Amash if you pay attention to how he's been messaging his stuff.
Yeah, it's the thing with Justin Amash is, he's got some of that neocon in him, and I don't particularly care. He sees government as a force of good, not the way they're acting, but he sees it as it could be a force of good, and I always think that's dangerous thinking. Yeah. Basically, exactly. You know, and I mean, I'd rather Justin Amash than anyone from the other two parties for sure. But I don't know. I mean, if he got the nod, I'd support him. You know, I'd support him. I'd donate to him, and you know. But it's interesting. Dave Smith has said something about he may run, and I'm like, well, that will actually make for an excellent debate. If nothing else.
My God! I think I've seen so many woke libertarians are like, if Dave Smith runs, he's gonna make the Libertarian Party look bad. I'm like, oh my God, are you serious?
He's gonna make them look like libertarians.
This would be like the revival of the Ron Paul movement, if he does run.
Yeah. I kind of hope he does, just so I can watch the debates between like him and Justin Amash and, you know, Vernon Supreme if he runs or whatever. Spike Cohen, I like Spike. I think he's a good guy. On the presidential ticket this last time, he was out there like trying to throw block parties and stuff, you know, to protest against the COVID lockdowns. The top of the ticket was pretty quiet about it, but Spike was pretty good on it. And he's, you know, I like Justin when it came to the COVID passports. He was very loud about that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, so there's, you know, I don't know. I was talking with Angela yesterday, and she was saying, you know, there's a lot of libertarians that are like, well, if the free market, you know, requires these COVID passports. I'm like, there is no free market. That is not real in this country. The only free market in this country they call the black market, and they like to throw those people in prison. Mm-hmm. Like, there is no free market here.
Ross Ulbricht, enough said.
There you go. Exactly. Right there. So let's see. Old in Chief FDA banning menthol cigarettes because they're racist as shit. That's my opinion. What do you think about that?
It's bullshit.
Oh yeah. I mean, 100%. Like they're, it's going after guns and stuff. I knew that was coming. You know what I mean? But menthol cigarettes, really? And they're like, well, we have to protect black people. I'm like, well, that's pretty racist. Like,
I heard they tried to ban menthol cigarettes back in 2009, and it didn't happen.
Well, my understanding is the FDA voted to ban it in a committee, and it'll take like years for it to actually like take place or whatever. But I'm just saying, I'm gonna have to buy like a semi truckload of them, and get my own grift on. Just
My mom is just saying something along the lines of, "Oh, I'm gonna have to go buy some menthols now because she's a regular cigarette smoker. She smokes like a chimney."
Oh shit! Well, it's not good for you, but I think people can do whatever they want. I don't understand the government that's like legit looking at legalizing marijuana, but they're like, we got to ban menthol cigarettes and flavored cigarettes. I'm like, why? What are you doing, idiots? Like, I don't know. But they're gonna upset the black people. What's that?
Virtue signaling.
Yeah. I just saw today that a bunch of white farmers are suing the federal government over the COVID relief bill, this last one. I guess there was like $4 billion in there for loan forgiveness or whatever, but only if you weren't white. And so all these white people are suing them. I think it's funny. I mean, I kind of hope they win. I mean, like it or not, it is a violation of the 17th Amendment.
Goodness.
That's the best part of Biden being president right now is just all the just nutty crap that they're pulling, and I'm like, this is hilarious. Like they're gonna burn this thing down.
To me, how I see this presidency, it's like Obama, Bush, and Jim Crow all rolled up into one. Because all the leftists that are claiming to be anti-racist are coming out as being actually racist. Especially,
very racist. These people are extremely racist by nature. You know what I mean? I think it's hilarious. Like you see the memes all the time. They're like, oh, they want to get rid of your cops and ban you from having guns. Like, no way that's going to end badly for you. Which I don't care. I'm like, get rid of the cops, whatever. You know what I mean? I don't give a crap. But I like to upset people with tweets and stuff. And I sent out one that said that I'm in favor of defunding the police. For every dollar we take away, we got to repeal one gun law. So I got the right and left all upset about that, which was hilarious. That's what you're supposed to do, is try to upset both sides,
Yep.
But so your husband's in the Army. So is he a career officer? Are he going to stay in the Army? Or because they got some woke nonsense rolling in there too. Critical race theory junk.
I'm not sure right now. I just know that he's probably not going to stay in for very long from what he's been telling me. And he's always like, why do I stay in the Army? I was stupid.
How long has he been in the Army now?
About a year.
Oh, well, that's not. Yeah, he's got several years before he can bounce. I mean, I guess he could resign his commission, but that's, I don't know. I guess that's up to him. But so you're in. He's stationed in Arizona.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well.
Yeah, he's stationed in Arizona. That's why I'm out here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Georgia's hot and humid. Yeah. So at least Arizona, it's not humid. It's hot.
Yeah, I agree. Like I hear it's hotter in Phoenix than it is here where I'm at.
Phoenix is extremely hot. I think a lot of it has to do with all the asphalt and concrete. It just absorbs all that crap and then it turns it into an oven. So
yeah, it's the heat island.
Yeah. Let's see. So you were born in West Germany, you said? Yeah. Is because your parents were in the military? Your mom was in the military?
Both of my parents were in the military, especially my dad.
Oh, okay. How many countries did you wind up living in?
From what I can remember, just one.
Just Germany?
Yeah.
And then you came back states or what?
Yeah. My mom and dad came back to the States in the early 90s,
Mhm.
right as the Gulf War started.
Fun.
So,
Bush
we were
Senior's
in
War.
my dad was stationed at Fort Bragg, and my mom had to tag along because she's a reserve.
Mhm.
Reserve. My dad's was active duty.
Right. Did your dad have to deploy to Desert Storm, or?
Yeah, they both did.
Oh, what
I was luckily
what'd
for
they do with
me.
you?
So luckily for me, I was only very small. I was a toddler. I was like 3 or 4 when it happened.
You just like wind up staying with a grandparent or something in that situation,
Yeah,
or what?
stayed with my grandparents during that time period.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Like, I just recently had a bunch of veterans and stuff here at the house, and they're doing a cross country horse-drawn covered wagon trip to raise awareness for PTSD and stuff, and also like they get these young guys that come up to them when they're doing events, and they're like, I don't know how to get VA to help me with stuff, so they've got the knowledge of that, and they help them out and get these guys squared away with that kind of thing, but they stayed out here for 5 days or something like that, and I was talking with them, and well, I think I got a bunch of them to admit they're libertarians and not Republicans, so that's always a good step. But I was like, you can be pro veteran and still be anti-government and anti-war,
Yeah.
And I don't remember who it was that said it, but it's the smartest damn thing I've ever heard, is that if you truly support veterans, stop making them. That's the easiest thing. My older brother's pretty messed up from his time in the military, and it just pisses me off that you get all these people and they're like, oh, of course we should bomb Syria, and of course we should have war with Iran. I'm like, good God, you people. While you're purging the military of all the white supremacists. Very annoying stuff, very annoying. I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
Because my mom, my mom was involved in 2 wars. My dad was involved in 1 before he retired in 95, 96, I think. Mm-hmm. And it's like my mom was deployed first started going to Iraq when I was still in high school. Back in 2003. I was like 15, 16 at the time.
Yeah.
And I had to deal with that hardship. And that's part of the reason why I'm like, I think it was during that time period I started becoming anti-war. I'm like, I think I was like, what are we doing over there? What is my mom doing over there?
Yeah. I don't think there's no real answer. Like, I mean, people make dumb shit up or whatever, but what's insane to me is that, going all the way back to Obama, it's been, well, we're going to get our troops out of Iraq. We're going to get them out of Afghanistan. Well, Obama got elected in 2008.
Yep.
What are you doing? It's 13 years. Like, it can't be that difficult. You know what I mean? I know it is actually, I can say logistically, it is not what people think it is. They say, well, you just marched in, you just march out. That's not how it works. You can get a whole lot of people killed if you try to just march out. So there are logistical issues, but they're not 13-year logistical issues. They're like 6-month logistical issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't want to. There's too much money in it, and that's what long and short, it comes down to money. I guarantee it. Well, it always comes down to money.
Yeah, no doubt. Especially with the neocons rallying behind it.
It's not just them. There's a bunch of Democrats too. Like, you look at it and it's like all these. Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. Republicrats. They're all one party. So, but then you get people, libertarians back in the day, and you got Gary Johnson, who I like. Gary Johnson. He was governor of my state for 2 terms, and the state was in really, really good shape when he was governor. But then, he picks Bill Weld, and I'm like, why are you picking a Raytheon executive? Like, what? You know what I mean? This doesn't make any sense to me. But
yeah, I didn't realize that until like after 2016. I'm like, oh.
yeah. When after Trump got elected,
then back then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I think the biggest problem I think that we run into is that everyone in the Libertarian Party, or that affiliates or calls themselves Libertarian, they want their one issue to be the most important issue. And, you can't really unify around that. I welcome all the people to come into the Libertarian Party, but, we need a centralized message from LP National. Like, these are our goals. These are the 4 or 5 things that we're really going to focus on. Because, you're not gonna win elections when you're like screaming, yeah, of course, just all this, open the borders, and that's not an argument that you're going to get people to pay attention. They're going to hear that and then just completely ignore everything that you have to say. But we saw a bunch of people in these Trump, the MAGA people or whatever, that they're extremely anti-war. Well, the Libertarian Party's been anti-war since it's founded, since it was founded. And Republicans are not anti-war. They never have been. And Democrats love war. They absolutely love it. And then they blame it on Republicans.
Yep, Bill Clinton.
Yeah, Clinton, exactly. Clinton, you go all the way back to World War I. It's Democrats love war. Yeah, they love war. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's why.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going into the historical context about 1913 when the 16th Amendment was implemented on the same year that the Federal Reserve was founded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ironic? I think
shocking. Not. Shocking. I do find it. A lot of libertarians will say in the Fed, right? And I agree with them. I don't think they understand the implications of doing that. It would absolutely cause an economic disaster in the short term. I'm okay with that. Yep. You know what I mean? Yeah. But because the stock market had completely tanked, and there's no way around it. It would have to. I mean, that's just, the long and short of it. But a lot of people have their retirements in the stock market, So it would be a very devastating economic hit for basically everyone in one way or another. But, what's that term? Short-term pain, long-term gain. So I'm kind of okay with it. I'm like, whatever, Yeah, 1913 was a bad year for America. Yeah. And it set off a century of just nonsense from then,
It's went from Federal Reserve, 16th Amendment, World War I.
Yeah, World War I was probably one of the dumbest things that we've ever involved ourselves in, Yeah,
because we created Hitler.
Yeah, we did. I mean, without us screwing around, that wouldn't have happened. I mean, it would have been a lot different, So I had something written down. I don't remember what I did with it. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what it was. We were talking about World War I, and Jeanette Rankin was elected to Congress in 1916 from Montana. She was the only person that voted against World War I. The only person in Congress to vote against it. She was the very first woman. It was her first term. She voted against going into that war. And then she got redistricted out of her seat. But then she came back in 1939. And she was one of one of 6 people that voted against World War II. And I'm like, this one lady from Montana was the only one that had a spine, Yep. But you could say the same thing about the Iraq War.
Yeah.
I mean, Ron Paul voted against it. And I think Ralph Nader may have voted against it. Almost everyone voted for it.
Ron Paul did voted for it only to rescind, and he's be all apologetic over it. It's I
thought he voted for I thought he voted for the war in Afghanistan, and he voted against the war in Iraq.
I might have been mixing it up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he voted for the war in Afghanistan, and then he voted against the Iraq war. I could be wrong. I may have to look it up. But I know he voted for Afghanistan, and I remember him saying it was a mistake. He shouldn't have, which is fine. I mean, I understand that, but then he also voted consistently, against funding the wars and all that kind of stuff. So unlike these other politicians that are like, oh, I shouldn't have voted for that. That was a mistake, but we're going to just keep it going. At least he treated it like it was a mistake, So I give him respect for that. Who's your favorite congressperson?
Currently?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a close one. Just kidding. It's Thomas Massey.
Okay. I was going to say, it's usually a pretty quick answer for most people. There are some pretty good ones up there. Thomas Massey is my favorite as well. And then, in the Senate, I used to really like Rand Paul until he became like Trump's puppet. And then I was pretty saddened by that. I think Mike Lee's pretty good from Utah. He's pretty good. But I also get very confused because you get like Kentucky, for instance, you get Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you people? Like, how does that work?
Don't get me started with Kentucky. They're kind of weird.
Well, and then you have you get Utah, and it's the same mess. You get Mike Lee, who's pretty. He's not a libertarian, but he's very constitutionalist, which is as close as you're going to get to libertarian from a Republican. And then you get Mitt Romney.
The presidential candidate for 2012, which I
you didn't vote for him, did you?
I did not vote for him.
Okay, very good. So yeah, it's interesting the way that states will put in someone like Turtle Man, Mitch McConnell, and then they'll also have Rand Paul, who's he's way better than Mitch McConnell, that's for sure. But I don't know. In Congress, though, it's a nightmare up there.
It's almost like South Carolina when they voted for Lindsey Graham, the biggest neocon in the face of the earth.
Yeah, that's true. He's. I don't know. I'm like, I don't like. One of the things is, Tim Pool brings this up a lot. That people ask him, well, why don't you do videos about Republicans? Why don't you talk about Republicans, as much as you do Democrats? And he's like, because they don't do anything. They just he goes, he said, basically the situation is this. The Democrats come to him, come to Congress or the Senate or whatever, and they go, hey, we want to burn the house down. And they're like, wow, whoa, calm down. Let's just burn down the kitchen. That's basically who they are. Was it Michael Malice said that conservatives are just progressives doing the speed limit or something like that? Man, he's one smart cookie, that guy. So
I'm convinced that he could be. I almost think that he could be autistic, with how smart.
Can you be an anarchist or libertarian if you're not somewhat autistic?
That is true. That is true.
YouTube's gonna get all pissed. Oh, you said autistic. No.
Oh my God, bad word.
No, they seem to be okay with that word. It's the R word that they get real upset about
very often.
I say it about myself a lot, like when I do something dumb, But
even when I do something dumb, I don't use that very often because I was called that when I was in elementary school.
Right. What's interesting to me is I remember, growing up and stuff, and when I was in school, we would be told okay, hey, these certain words can be offensive to people, so you should choose a different word or whatever. Just be nice, basically. That's essentially how the educators, the parents, all of it, they handled it. It was like, yeah, that's not very nice. You shouldn't do that, right? It's really your first, or it was my first, I guess, how the non-aggression principle being instilled is that don't. The easiest way to not lead to violence is just be nice to people. Just don't call them names. Be nice to them. Don't make fun of them. Now, obviously, when you're with friends and stuff, you always make fun of each other. Well, guys do. I don't know about girls.
Well, girls can be kind of catty.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of catty.
But I find it interesting that that's how, when I was growing up, that's how it was, like, and it worked. I mean, for the most part, the majority of kids would go, okay, yeah, well, we don't want to be, seen as a prick. So sure, no problem. Like, we won't call people names or whatever, make fun of them for things that are outside of their control or whatever. But now these woke, crazy people are like telling you that everything, it's like, oh, you can't say that word, you can't do this, you can't, even if you're using the word in a context that makes it like by definition, and that's what it would be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They freak out and they're trying to force people into compliance, and it's working, and that's crazy to me. Because no, like the pronouns thing, for instance, if I meet someone and they're like, oh, hey, whatever, this what I prefer to be referred to or called or whatever, okay, no problem, right? But if they tell me you have to call me this, well, now I'm just going to screw with you because it's not happening, I've only had that happen twice where they were like, no, you will call me this, and I was like, whatever, Florbo, no, I won't. Like, if you just gonna make up nonsense, so do I. Like, it's fine.
It's just insane.
Yeah.
It's like, especially on Twitter when they have to put it in their bios, and I'm like,
I'm not putting that shit in my bio. I don't care if other people do. It does make it easy at times to know who to debate with. Very often, it can be quite helpful because you just click and you go, oh, never mind. there's no point. But I have no problem with people that do it. I don't make fun of them or anything. I'm like, wow, okay, whatever. I mean, if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. It's all good. I got like a bunch of people super pissed at me and David fight because when after Asians became oppressed again, because there for a long time they were like, oh, they're basically white people or white adjacent. And then, the media shifted to now they're being oppressed and they're beaten and all these things. David and I, put yellow boxes in our bio in solidarity with the Asian community, and people got really upset. I don't understand.
Are you familiar with Shane and Nico of what's happening?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't follow all their stuff, but
yeah, they're half Asian, and they put in the yellow box as a joke on their.
That's why I did it as a joke. Like, I thought it would be funny, and a lot of people got the joke, including a bunch of Asian people got the joke. But the progressive, I'm just going to call them progressives. It doesn't matter like what side of the aisle they're on. They're all progressives. They didn't like the joke. They got very offended by the joke, which actually made it funnier.
That's just, it's like pretty soon they're gonna say that Weeaboo is offensive.
The what?
Like Weeaboos, people that are really obsessed with anime and stuff. It's like, or people that want to be Japanese. I'm like, yeah, that's probably gonna be banned pretty soon.
I mean, if those people are white, they can go over to Japan and they'll be treated pretty good. If they're any other ethnicity and they go to Japan and they're not wearing a U.S. service member's uniform, they're going to find out just how racist Asia can be.
Yeah.
Like, real bad. That's one of the funny things to me is like, oh, America's so racist. And I'm like, China has commercials where they put black people in washing machines and they come out Chinese.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Oh, I saw that one. I saw that one.
Now, like, to be perfectly honest, I cracked up laughing when I saw it. I thought it was hilarious. But that's because...
But at the same time, it's just like, oh my goodness. So corny.
It's very hard to offend me. So, like, I understand that it's racist. I could see where a black person would be offended, possibly by it. But why am I going to be offended? It's funny. Like, if they would have put just a white person in and they would have came out Chinese, I would have laughed about that too. Like, it was funny. And yeah, sure, it's super racist, but it's still funny. Like, people, we lost our sense of humor in America.
Yep.
And we got to get it back.
Wokeness killed it.
Yeah.
Wokeness killed it.
Yeah. Well, and
I think
did you see this nonsense with Joe Rogan? They're going after Rogan again. I'm like, come on, people. First of all, he's got more money than God. You're not going to cancel him. And even if you do, he's just going to go fishing.
Yep.
Like, Spotify's not going to get rid of him. He gets like 100 million views a month or something like that. You know what I mean? It's probably more than that, honestly. I think
they just threw a fit over it because he was agreeing with Dave Smith, and because
he said something perfectly sensical.
Yeah, like apparently Vice called Dave Smith a Republican. And
I saw that. He flipped out. He was like, "I'm not a fucking Republican."
I'm like, I'm just thinking, like, I don't blame you. I would be pissed too if I was called a Republican. I'm like, I left that title ages ago.
Yeah, people call me a Republican all the time, and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, you believe what you want. I don't
care. I haven't been a Republican since I was 21. Actually, I take that back. I voted for Ted Cruz in the Republican primary, but I have not called myself a Republican since then.
Yeah, see, I didn't. The Republican primary in 2016, I voted for Gary Johnson. That's who I voted for president as well.
Yeah.
And then
early voting in Tennessee, you had, at least where I was from, you had two choices: Democrat or Republican.
Oh, I gotcha. Oh, well. Yeah, I voted for Gary Johnson in 2016, and New Mexico is one of the few states that actually has a primary for libertarians as well. There's on the primary ballot, you get a libertarian ballot, primary ballot. Most states don't. They just have like conventions or whatever. But New Mexico does have one, and I voted for Jo Jorgensen on that. And then, well, COVID and her response to, well, lack of response, I should say, LP National's lack of response. It's like, I'm not voting for you. You know what I mean? Like, sure, Trump was the one that was like, oh, we're going to shut down for 15 days. But Trump there towards the end was like screaming like this, you guys got to open up. This is nuts. You're going to, cripple everything.
I noticed that.
And that's basically the only reason.
Not going to lie.
What's that?
It's like I almost voted for Kanye West. I'm not gonna lie.
He wasn't on my state ballot. I couldn't vote for him even if I wanted to.
I did absentee ballot for Tennessee because
I gotcha.
Georgia at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd only been there for a month.
I keep seeing like a lot of people are upset about the mail-in voting that took place or whatever, and I think it's ripe for odd things to happen, and that's how I'm going to word it so YouTube doesn't flip out. But you'll see people like say, well, with the technology of today, you could easily verify someone's identity, and then they should be allowed to vote, through their smartphone or computer or whatever. Obviously, this makes perfect sense. You know what I mean? And it's funny because you say that to lefties. Republicans basically are like, no, if you're too lazy to go down to the poll, then you shouldn't be allowed to. And I'm like, there's something to be said there. You know what I mean? There's an argument in that. But the left is like, no, you can't do that. You can't just do it electronically. It could get hacked. And I'm like, I don't think that's why they don't want it done electronically. I think they don't want it done electronically because you have to prove who you are. And they know that. And that's a problem for them.
Yeah, especially for your illegal immigrants.
Yeah. Well, I think democracy is
illegal
stupid.
Immigrants.
Yeah, I think democracy is absolutely stupid. It's the dumbest thing in the face of the planet. Like, you don't get to vote away my rights, you idiots. Like, that's retarded. But if you are going to have democracy, what's that?
These are the same people that are saying cheering for Trump's removal from office, and they were like, yeah, we voted our way our dictator. I'm like, you don't vote away dictators, you idiot.
Yeah, that's true.
We voted out fascism. I'm like, you don't vote out fascism.
You can't vote out fascism. That doesn't work. Fascism ends the same way every time. War. That's what gets rid of it. That's the only thing that gets rid of it. That's what gets rid of dictators. That's what gets rid of kings and queens. War. It's not, you can't vote it away. Well, I guess you are voting. You're just voting with a different kind of vote. What is it? The ballot box, the cartridge box or something like that. I don't remember the exact phrasing or statement, but but if we are going to have this retarded democracy situation where we all get to elect these idiots, I think there should be a test. I think you should have to pass a test. You should absolutely have to know who the people are, know some of their history. Like, you got to do some research. You got to, not just go in there and be like, RD. No, you got to take a test. I think they should have to take a test. For real.
Yeah.
And the first one should be like, what's the 16th Amendment? Because if you can't answer that, you can't vote. You're not allowed. We don't let you.
Not a lot of people actually know about the 16th Amendment.
I know. Libertarians would absolutely conquer the next election cycle because only libertarians would be able to say what it is. And all the Republicans and Democrats would be like, well, there's more than 10? What? That's funny. What's your number one? What's your number one thing? What's your peeve?
Peeve. Oh. God.
Yeah, like what's your thing that you think that the Libertarian Party should focus on? Everyone's got one thing.
I mean, I already stated it basically, which is the ending these forever wars.
Yeah. I'm finding that there's a shift now. It was for the very longest time, it was all just the wars, right? Got to get out of these forever wars. But then, in my opinion, I mean, the government brought the fight to us right here with these lockdowns, and a lot of people have shifted. Yeah. They've shifted to their number one focus is, get rid of these lockdowns, make sure they never, make it more than clear they're never doing it again. Basically, which they could have done. Honestly, people are too complacent. They could have just been like, yeah, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And there's not enough cops to do anything about it. That's just the bottom line. Like, they could, one of the things I saw was a lot of videos of people that are trying to open their business. And then you see these videos of these cops, Praetorian Guard, Gestapo out there arresting them and all this stuff. And the people on Twitter, all these Republicrats, are like, oh, this is terrible. Well, go help that person. Go stand in front of that business, armed to the teeth, like those boys down in Texas did. You know what I mean? When they opened that bar up and they brought out SWAT, and the guys are like, "You sure you want to do this? Is it worth it?" And the cops left because they had to. You know what I mean? But so we've got Waco 2.0 coming. That's going to be for menthol cigs. Olden Chief doesn't know where he is. What's that?
I was like, Waco or Ruby Ridge? Because they both happened in the same year.
Yeah, well, I mean, Waco happened because they were trying to make up for the bad publicity they got from Ruby Ridge. So, they made it absolutely worse.
I remember the trials for Waco afterwards, and Janet Reno lied out of her ass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big time.
She was like, I had nothing to do with that. Bullshit, you did. Lying bitch.
You realize all this stuff was recorded, right? Yeah, you did. Did you ever watch the, I think it was on Netflix, and they had a docudrama about Waco?
I think I saw that running around on Netflix, but I don't think I ever got, I don't know, maybe.
I think it's still on there, but if it is, you should definitely watch it. It's super good. They did a really great job, but one of the reasons they did such a great job is the college professor that left before, it all went down or whatever, and the FBI negotiator were both brought in so they'd get both sides, you know what I mean, of the story. And so they tell it true. They tell it like, hey, look, they were trying to make up for Ruby Ridge and they want to get this good publicity, and all hell broke loose, obviously, and then they murdered 70-something people. So, I still run into people that are like, well, those people were in a cult. And I'm like, so we just murder them? You're okay with that? Like, it was a peaceful cult. You know what I mean? It was a peaceful cult. And they go, well, yeah, but they were selling guns. They have a Second Amendment right. Do you actually support the Constitution or not? I mean, that ends with shall not be infringed.
Yeah, so, like David Finchman is now the head of the ATF.
Yeah, I cannot believe that. I when that was going on, I tweeted, like, if Republicans don't block this guy from heading the ATF, they should resign in shame for their cowardice.
You would think, but it never happened.
But you notice though that, like, they've only kicked one person back. They got nominated and they were like, no, not this one. And it was because they said like something bad about black people or something on a tweet one time. That's it. Everybody else, it's like, yeah, okay. The Republicans don't give a shit. These people are weak, pathetic losers. Like,
yeah, I did notice that with like when they nominated Mitt Romney in 2012, he was a homophobic asshole.
Well, he's still a homophobic asshole. Like, which is his right to be a homophobic asshole, but he should probably keep it to himself when he's running for president, you know? Or maybe it's better that he doesn't keep it to himself so people know what they're really getting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was funny when they nominated Mitt Romney, because I was like, Obama's pretty popular. I mean, I didn't like him because he liked to blow up American children, overseas, without due process. But I was like, I don't think the Republicans even had anyone that could have beat Obama. So feed Mitt Romney to the wolves. That's basically what I was thinking. And then, unfortunately, the little bastard moved to Utah and became a senator. So
Yep. I didn't vote for Obama in 2008 because he came off as charismatic at first, then it's like because I was into the whole LGBT activism at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he came out against gay
You
marriage.
missed one. It's LGBTQ plus. Of course he did. These people are all morons. Like, that's what they do.
Then I saw them getting behind him like, okay, you're full of shit. I'm not voting for you.
Yeah, I find it hilarious that people don't Trump is the only president to ever be for gay marriage before he got elected.
Yeah, you would think the leftists would have been overjoyed by that, but no, they weren't.
I want to get your thoughts on something.
Hitler for 4
I want to get
years.
your thoughts. Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on something. One of the things that everyone basically says about Trump is Trump just wanted to be liked, right? He just wanted to be liked. He wanted everyone to love him, to pat his ego or whatever, right? Did the progressives and the left play their cards wrong in this situation? Because they went after him with like hatred and it pulled all their masks off, which scared the hell out of a lot of people, that's for sure. But had they just been, oh, Trump, you're just the greatest, they could have got all kinds of nonsense passed.
You would think.
I mean, they got him to ban bump stocks.
Because he's a Republican.
The Cheeto dictator. And to be perfectly honest, prior to Joe Biden, Donald Trump was the most progressive president we've ever had. And that's saying a lot. I mean, but he really was.
Yeah, I know. But they were calling him a Russian asset for 4 years and trying to come up with all of this conspiratorial nonsense about Russia, which had been proven to be false many, many times.
They spent like $30 million proving it was false. You know?
I know. And they're still going on the Russian narrative.
Yeah, I can't watch the Communist News Network anymore. Like, I used to watch CNN when I was younger. Like, I'd okay, what's going on around the world today? And I'd turn it on and they would tell me. They don't do that anymore.
When I think it was like back then, CNN was actually pretty good, and they had Larry King, which I thought was kind of unbiased. It was after he left CNN, which I found it was 2010. It just tanked.
Yeah. Well, and then it really tanked when Trump started to run. When he announced that he was going to run, that it just became the Trump campaign channel. And not propping him up. They were like trying to go after him. But yeah, CNN is just hot garbage now. And, you know, we were talking before the show about, it's all fake news, all of it. CNN, Fox News is all fake news. But I will give credence to Fox News. I turn on Fox News once in a while, and you know what they're talking about? A volcano erupting, somewhere in the Pacific. And I go, huh. And I switch over to CNN, and I swear to God, it's, Trump's a meanie head, or Tucker Carlson said, a naughty thing.
Yeah.
What are you, like the Fox News review channel now? What are you doing? That's all Brian Stelter does, by the way. That little goblin.
35?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I learned that the other day, and I was like, oh, my God. I'm older than him, and nope. I want to know how this dude got on TV.
It's like the dude is 2 years older than I am, and I look about 10 years younger.
Yeah. But he's just a Fox News review channel now. That's his entire show.
Yeah.
But CNN's they're not news at all. There's not
anymore.
Like, one of the favorite things that I saw this week, one of my favorite things I saw, was Project Veritas is suing the New York Times for an article that, like, they wrote or whatever, a news article that they wrote. And the New York Times defense was, well, we didn't know that it was false because we didn't fact check it. Like, it's not our fault. We don't really do that. And it's like, so you admit you're not really news. And they're like, well, no, yeah, that's what you literally just said that in court. Like, we don't really know. It's like, okay.
I heard that Project Veritas is also suing CNN for the same thing.
Yeah, and now they're suing Twitter. So
yeah,
that's interesting. I don't know how it's going to go, because these massive corporations have government. Another reason I can say there's no free market. These are not private companies.
Exactly.
Your company is not going to get all these special protections that all these other outfits get. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're not getting that. Doesn't matter. So this is the one thing that I will battle every libertarian on the planet about. If you show me a free market, I'll support it. You can't do that. These companies, like Joe Biden literally just said it, and it's just the other day or other night on his thing. Well, we've been working hand in hand with private business. That's called fascism. Not even kidding.
Yep.
That's literally what it's called. It's a merger of corporate and state. That's fascism. 100%. Don't take it from me. Ask Mussolini. He's the one that said it. Well, actually, he said we shouldn't really call it fascism. We should call it corporatism. But whatever. But he admitted that's what it was.
Already capitalism for the longest time.
Yeah. So very irritating. There's no free market in this country. Like I said, there is, but it's called the black market, and they like to throw people like Ross in jail. For what?
Selling Bitcoin.
Where was his 230 protections? Right. Like, where's his Section 230 protection? Like, well, I didn't do this stuff. They did this stuff. Like, they want to make an example out of him and be like, hey, because that's what they like to do.
Like, he was
that, yeah. It's a pretty bad thing. John McAfee is in the same situation.
Yeah.
I mean, not the same situation as Assange, but he's, they're persecuting him. Edward Snowden, same thing.
I was just about to state him next. Like, he blew the whistle on the NSA, and he's been in Russia since then. And of course,
he had to start out in China and then go to Russia. How sad is that? He had to go to communist China. He had to go to communist China to break the story, right? And then they came for him, and they stuck him in Russia. That's not where he was supposed to end up. He had, I don't remember what country it was, but one of them had offered him asylum, and they canceled his passport, so he couldn't go.
Yeah, like I said, they took his passport away from him.
Right, so he got stuck in Russia, and then Vladimir Putin, who's a real nice guy, according to old Biden, he's a killer. Like every U.S. president isn't.
Yep.
But it's now he's stuck in Russia. Because why? Because he told the truth. Because he said, "Hey, these people are breaking the law," and they're like, "Oh, lawbreaker! No, you're the lawbreakers." You know what I mean?
Yep.
But they went after him with just everything they could. I mean, luckily Russia took him in, and we're like, "All right, you don't have to worry about it." Have you read his book?
I don't think so. I've seen it, but I don't think I've read it.
Oh, you should read it. It's pretty interesting. Like, he's a pretty smart guy. I think you can get just a digital copy for like $1 or something. It's not even expensive to get or whatever. But I don't like the way the government treats these whistleblowers or whatever. They go after them.
Unless they're whistleblowers that they agree with.
Right. Yeah, because you'd constantly see this like, oh, the whistleblower for, we can't even say his name on YouTube, but for Trump, the one that
Yeah, I
whatever.
know.
And they're like, no, we have to protect him at all costs. Like, to the point
Mm-hmm.
that social media will delete you if you say his name.
Yep.
Like, they won't just take the video down, they'll delete your entire channel on YouTube if you say his name or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, but they're still trying to bring Assange here, and they, are still after Edward Snowden, still after McAfee. Like, well, McAfee's not a whistleblower, he just didn't want to pay his taxes and he failed. So, I mean, good for him. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of that. Like, yeah, don't pay him. You want to peacefully protest, just everyone stop paying taxes.
Yep.
Like, at all.
Well, just remember, no amendment is absolute.
No amendment is absolute, that was one of my favorite things he said, because I immediately tweeted out that I'm no longer paying taxes, and I am actively engaged in the search for slaves. Although technically slavery is legal in America.
Yep.
It's never been fully outlawed. You tell people that and they're like, no, it is. No, it's not. Read it. Read the 13th Amendment. It did not abolish slavery. It did not outlaw it. It outlawed it for me and you, but not for the government. They're absolutely allowed to have slaves. So, yeah, that's fun. Anyway, we are coming on just over an hour here, and you got anything you want to add? Anywhere people can follow you other than your Twitter, because that's all I knew.
I have
any grift?
So I got mine and Instagram. There's some other stuff, but I just know about my Instagram. I also have an alternate account. It's like ladylike. So you can just search for unladylike libertarian, and it'll come up.
Nice, I like it. You got any grift going on? You got any private business of your own that you're trying to raise awareness to, get some capital?
No, just try to do my podcast.
What's the name of your podcast? What's the name of your podcast? And I'll put it in
Unladylike libertarian.
Okay, well, that's very easy. So you guys all follow her there. Subscribe to her channel. I will put that in the description for YouTube for later. I didn't know you had a podcast, because you probably should put that on your Twitter thing so people know that.
I should.
Just saying.
Be doing that. Should be doing that.
Yeah, maybe you should. I'm just saying, it might help.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has been a lot of fun, and we'll have you back on another time. We are doing the Ladies of Liberty this week through the weekend, and I don't know, whenever they want to come on. They're more shy than guys for some reason. Y'all, be safe, be kind. I stole that from Reed.